Good day, everyone. We are the group 3 that will be presenting the behavioral and other influential theories that are related in industrial setting. I am Althea Garcia here with Sam Andre Abuyo, Aaron Moises Pailen, Diana Kelly Condes, Micaela Gabato, and Marilyn Grace Itis. So for the first presenter, it will be Aaron. The stage is yours.
For our first theory, we have B.F. Skinner's reinforcement theory or operant conditioning. So operant conditioning, also known as reinforcement theory, is a learning process kung saan ang individual or ang behavior ng individual ay nababago ng kanyang consequences. Kasi yung behavior, function daw to kung ano yung consequences natin kasi we learn to associate the consequences dun sa ginawa nating behavior. So, ang likelihood daw na ulitin pa natin yung ginawa natin is nakabase sa kanyang outcome. Kasi, ang theory na to is naka-stem sa law of effect ni Thorndike kung saan sinasabi dito na kapag satisfactory daw yung consequences, kapag maganda, most likely daw marirepeat natin yung behavior. At kapag hindi naman maganda yung naging consequences, less likely naman siyang marirepeat. So, bakit nga ba ganun? Kasi dito sa theory natin na to is meron tayong tinatawag na reinforcement and punishment. Si reinforcement, the one that supports the behavior, ito yung nag-i-increase ng likelihood na ma-repeat yung behavior niya. Meanwhile naman, si punishment is the opposite one. This one naman decreases the behavior. So, pero meron pang tigdalawa yan. So, una natin ay si, excuse me, una natin ay si positive reinforcement. So, positive reinforcement adds desirable stimulus. Nag-a-add siya ng magandang outcome. So, example natin ito is, may manager na nagbigay ng cash bonus sa kanyang employee kasi maganda yung sales. So, ini-increase ni manager yung mataas na sales ni employee by giving him or her a reward. And yung reward na yon, yung positive reinforcement na yon is the cash bonus. So, next naman is the negative reinforcement. So, this one removes naman undesirable stimulus. So, tinatanggal niya yung mga hindi maganda as a reward. So, ang example natin dito is meron tayong manager na meron silang ginagawang weekly time audit and weekly time consuming audit rather sa isang manufacturing line. So, dahil yung team niya ay 90 days nang walang accident, 90 days na silang merong safe behavior na ginagawa, tinanggal na niya yung time consuming audit na yon para ma-increase yung safe behavior. Kasi kung ako yung employee, syempre, ay, tinanggal na ni sir yung audit natin. Siguro kasi maganda na yung performance natin. Ituloy-tuloy na natin. Diba? Let's continue being safe sa ating performance, sa ating line of work para hindi na tayo mabalik doon sa time audit natin. So that's how negative reinforcement works. Next up naman is the positive and negative punishment. So the positive punishment, this is very simple, no? It adds undesirable stimulus. So for example, si supervisor ay nagbigay siya ng formal written warning sa isang employee kasi mini-misuse niya or hindi niya ginagamit ng maayos yung equipment. So, ang punishment dito is yung written warning para ma-decrease yung behavior na misusing of company equipment. Ngayon naman, si negative punishment naman is the one that removes desirable stimulus naman. No? So, tinatanggal niya yung, let's just say, privilege mo, ganyan. Tinatanggal niya yung nakakagaan sa trabaho mo. So, for example, dito, ayan. Meron tayong employee na lagi siyang nakakamiss ng deadline, no? So, para siyang magkaroon ng, or para ma-decrease yung kanyang pagiging late sa pagpasa ng kanyang mga work, is tinanggal yung kanyang privilege, yung desirable stimulus na work remotely. So, pwede siya mag-work from home, mag-work from coffee shop, mag-work from mall, kahit sa beach, pwede siya magtrabaho doon. Pero dahil nga siya ay laging nakakamiss ng deadline, kailangan nitong tanggalin ng kanyang boss para ma-decrease yung deadline missing behavior niya. Now, bukod sa ating bukod sa ating 4 na kinds ng reinforcements, no? So, meron din tayong schedules of reinforcement. So, ito yung frequency and timing kasi ito ay crucial kung kailan ka magbibigay ng reinforcement. Magbibigay ka ba ng reinforcement agad-agad? Magbibigay ka ba after 1 month? Every 3 weeks? Every 2 days? Diba? Or random lang ba siya? It is important kasi yung schedule, kung kailan ka magre-reinforce, it has different effects. So, yun ang i-discuss natin one by one. So, first up is the continuous. So, ito yung reinforcement na binibigay mo every time a behavior occurs. So, for example, ako ay may gawin akong tama. Nire-reinforce ako, ipipraise ako. Pag may ginawa akong mali, bubuliwan ako, papagalitan ako. So, basically, continuous is agad-agad. May gawin kang behavior, tama, mali, punishment, reinforcement, agad. Diba? Walang time na lilipas, agad-agad. So, ayan, example natin dyan is giving immediate praise sa bagong trainee na magaling sa kanyang task. No? So, ang effect naman nito, ito yung may fastest learning kasi nga, syempre, agad-agad agad-agad mong sasabihin sa kanya na, mali ang ginawa mo. Sige, tama yung ginawa mo. Agad-agad. Pero, ito rin yung may pinakamabilis na extinction. So, kapag sinabi natin extinction, ito yung pagkawala nung reinforcement. Kasi nga, syempre, agad-agad Next one naman is the fixed ratio. So, reinforcement is done after a fixed number of responses or behavior. So, ito ay nakabase sa response. No? Makikita natin, mamaya may isa pa tayong fixed, pero for now, fixed ratio muna tayo. So, pag sinabi natin ratio, ito yung responses and behavior. So, ayan, a worker gets paid every 100 products assembled. So, yun yung kanyang fixed na ratio. No? So, babayaran lang kita. I-reinforce ko lang yung ginagawa mo kada 100 items. Or pwede rin kada 50 items, kada 10 items. Ang importante, para maging fixed ratio, is kailangan pare-parehas lang yung amount ng responses. No? So, ayan, ang effect nito is ito yung may high and steady response rate. Kasi nga, may fixed kang numbers ng responses. Pero, meron siyang brief pauses lang after reinforcement since, syempre, sa utak ng isang trabahador, okay, may reward na ako, sa pang 100 ko na ulit. So, ganun. Now naman, meron tayong tinatawag na variable ratio. So, kabaliktaran to ng fixed ratio na, ayan, fixed number. Si variable ratio naman is unpredictable number or random number siya. So, hindi siya pare-parehas, no? Hindi pare-parehas na number ng responses. So, ang example natin dito is ito yan, si sales commission or si cold calling, no? So, kapag sales commission, pwedeng ma-rewardan ka lang after mong makakuha ng client. So, yung client na yan, hindi naman yan fix na every one client makukuha mo, di ba? So, pwede siyang, meron ka ng 3 na interview na client, pero si pang 3rd lang yung nakuha mo. So, okay, may commission ka dyan. After naman, si 4th, si 5, si 6, si 7, si 8, si 8, si 9, si 10, hindi mo siya nakuha. So, wala kang commission. Sa pang 11 ka na ulit kukuha. So, basically, hindi siya pare-pareha. So, random yung magiging reinforcement sa'yo. And pwede rin itong mag-base sa performance mo. So, ayan. So, for example dito, si salesperson, ayan, this is cold calling. Si salesperson ay nagkakaroon lang ng sales after a random number of calls. So, pwedeng sa pang 5th na tawag niya, sa pang 12 na tawag niya, tapos sa pang 18th dapat yan natawag. So, hindi siya fixed, no? Wala siyang certain amount of interval. Kumbaga, random talaga. Okay. Ang effect naman ito is very high and steady pa rin ang response rate, and ito ang may pinaka-resistant sa extinction kasi nga, random Hindi mo alam kung kailan ka magkakaroon ng reinforcement. Hindi mo alam kung kailan ka magkakaroon ng sales. Hindi mo alam kung kailan yung magiging consequences nung iyong behavior. So, continuous lang siya or mas resistant siya sa extinction kasi nga hindi mo alam kung kailan magkakaroon ng effect yung ginagawa mo. Now, let's move on sa susunod nating fixed, no? So, ito naman is si fixed interval. Pag nakita nyo yung word na interval, ang ibig sabihin yan ay amount of time. So, dyan, fixed amount of time. So, nire-reinforce ka lang based sa oras, no? So, ang response rate ng gantong kind of behavior might increase right before the reinforcement at pwede rin itong mag-drop afterward. So, bakit siya gano'n, no? So, ang example natin dito is the monthly paycheck, no? So, sabi dyan, ang employees daw, pwede daw silang mag-increase yung effort nila kasi payday na. Shit, sasahod na ako, ayan na. Galingan na natin. Pero syempre, pag nakuha mo na yung sahod mo, okay, kakasahod ko lang naman. Diba? So, parang mas, tawag dito, mas nag-i-increase yung effort nila bago nila makuha yung sahod. Pag alam na nila, makukuha na nila yung sahod. At magde-decrease siya kapag nakuha na nila yung reward nila. At mag-i-increase ulit to pag malapit na ulit yung susunod naman nilang sahod. No? Now, for variable interval naman, ito yung reinforcement pa rin based on amount of time, pero dahil nga variable na siya, it is unpredictable, random, hindi mo alam kung kailan. So, moderate lang ang response rate nito, pero steady pa din. At ito naman ang mas nag-encourage ng consistency kasi nga hindi mo alam kung kailan hindi mo alam kung kailan ka ma-reinforce. So, ang example natin dyan is yung spot checks natin or yung unannounced audit ng mga managers. So, for example, ayan, may manager na nagpe-praise or nagre-reward ng good performance ng isang employee or ng mga employees niya based on or during an unscheduled random walkthrough or random assessment. So, hindi mo alam kung kailan. So, kung ako, yung employee, and alam kong ganun ang technique ng aking manager, syempre, I would be consistent sa aking performance kasi nga hindi ko alam kung kailan ako i-assess, kung kailan darating, kung kailan mag-o-observe yung manager namin. No? So, this is most effective kasi it encourages nga consistency.
Thank you for that, Aaron. So, in this second theory, we will be discussing the self-determination theory made by Richard Ryan and Edward Deci. So, the self-determination theory answered the question, what does motivate us to continue what we do? So, Richard Ryan and Edward Deci focus on this theory that what truly motivates us, not just from the external factors, but also from within. So, what does really this theory mean or define? So, the definition of this theory is a meta theory of motivation at work that is concerned with autonomy, intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation, and the satisfaction of psychological work needs. So, ang meta theory, ibig sabihin ay it is an umbrella theory that means meron pang theory under this, such as the cognitive evaluation theory and the self-concordance theory that will later on ma-explain natin kung ano sila and how it is connected mismo dun sa theory. So, ano ba yung mismong core concept ng theory na to? So, we have motivation types na autonomous motivation, controlled motivation. So, compared sa other earlier or older theories of motivation, hindi lang tayo focus dito sa external and internal motivation. Kasi, we focus more, in this theory, ina-address natin siya as autonomous motivation and controlled motivation. Ano nga ba yung autonomous motivation and yung controlled motivation? So, yung dalawang part talaga nito, ito yun. And, hindi ibig sabihin ng external factors lahat ay goods. Pwede siyang maging bad na ma-explain dito siya sa self-determination theory. Yung autonomous motivation ay na autonomy. So, you have a freedom to choose what you want, yung gusto mo talaga, yung pusa, yung interesado ka, yung ikaw talaga yung pumili. While yung control naman, ito yung mga pressure, yung kailangan may rewards or kailangan inuutos siya. So, parang, if you are wondering bakit may ibang tao na, bakit parang driven sila to learn something kahit walang reward, while others are kailangan parang reward para mag-aral, di ba? So, ito yung parang paano natin ma-explain itong self-determination theory. Diba? Bakit mahalaga yung theory na to? Kasi yung theory na to, yung self-determination theory, hindi lang siya nagpo-focus sa performance, but also dun sa other facets such as mental health and overall well-being ng isang individual. Kapag kasi driven by autonomous motivation siya, mas malaya at mas genuine yung interest mo. While pag control naman, yun yung mga external factors and may deadlines, pressure, tsaka yung mga bonuses, di ba, na meron during sa, parang sa rewards din at the same time. Kapag kasi ang tao ay driven by autonomous motivation, iba yung drive ng creativity. Kapag, yun, iba yung drive ng creativity kasi dahil gusto mo yung ginagawa mo. For example, may existing study na kinonduct, which is yung comparing doon sa mga teachers na may high autonomous and dun sa mga may low autonomous motivation. Roughly, if I'm not mistaken, it's 43 teachers ata yun. And lumabas dun sa study na yon kung sino yung mga matataas na may autonomous motivation na teacher, sila yung parang mas nagbabali ng work nila, mas interesado, energetic, and sila talaga yung gustong magturo, yung willingness and yung compassion andoon. Kasi iisip nila, choice na yung ginawa nila. Kumbaga, parang yung ginagawa nila is gusto talaga nila, hindi something na inutos o dahil may reward sila. Kaysa dun sa mga driven mostly ng controlled motivation such as rewards, medyo there is a difference doon sa performance ng mga teachers na yon. Hindi lang sa educational settings. We can also apply din sa workplace settings. For example, mas driven gagawin yung isang task kung ikaw yung nag-suggest kaysa yung inutos lang sa'yo na gawin mo to, ganyan, dapat ganito. Parang mas mahirap gawin sa'yo yung bagay na inuutos kasi feeling mo, nawawala ka ng freedom para piliin or gawin yung kung anong gusto mo sa pamarang gusto mo o sa interesado ka. Diba? Ayun. Sa key components naman, we have 4 here, the sense of choice, the task motivation itself. Yun nga, sense of choice, kasama, yung autonomous, yung autonomy ng isang tao, yung task motivation itself, ano yung dun sa task, sa influence, kung ano yung influence ng rewards, and sooner ma-explain natin kung bakit minsan ng rewards ay hindi siya laging good ang effect dun sa employee or sa workplace, or sa management mismo. And lastly is yung satisfaction of psychological needs. So, according this theory, kasi meron tayong dapat na isatisfy para dun sa mismong well-being ng isang individual to perform better, diba? And eto lang, para hindi tayo nagulan kasi sa other theories na na-mention natin, hindi naman automatically na ang controlled ay extrinsic. Magkaiba yon. Dito kasi sa self-determination theory, actually, yung autonomous motivation, same siya sa intrinsic motivation. Ibig sabihin kasi pag autonomous motivation, it's from within and yung intrinsic motivation is from within also. So kapag mataas ang autonomous motivation mo, mas mag-perform better ka. Pero hindi ibig sabihin na ang external motivation is same with control motivation. Kasi sa external motivation, okay, yeah, let's say na galing yun sa labas, galing yun sa external factors. But, dito sa self-determination theory, nahahati yung extrinsic motivation into two. It can be autonomous motivation and it can be controlled motivation. Depende yon kung paano in-internalize mismo ng isang individual yung task na ginagawa or pinagagawa sa kanya. So, let's move forward before tayo move forward, yung dito sa part na yun, kapag high autonomous means mas okay yung well-being at mas mababa yung stress. Pati ang quality ng mga gawa or like way ng paano pina-perform ng isang tao, mas mataas or mas okay compared dun sa mga mas mababang autonomous motivation. Okay, so let's move forward with the type of motivation. Let's say, dito natin ma-explain kung bakit hindi lahat ng extrinsic motivation is nakakatulong or good siya. Kasi automatically, yes, intrinsic motivation is autonomous. So, it's a good thing kasi galing yun from within. So, ang meaning nito is, it's from our enjoyment. Tayo mismo yung interesado and may freedom tayo to choose kasi sa atin ang galing yung will para gawin yung isang bagay. Ito yung motivation. dito na natin siya i-discuss sa dulong part kasi medyo siya na yung last. So, yung external regulation naman, ito yung uh, two controlled motivation na external. Or kung sa other theories, external motivation siya. Ito, under siya na external, but it is controlled motivation. Kasi ginagawa mo yung isang task para sa reward and bonuses. While yung sa introjective regulation, it's also a type of control motivation. Kasi, yun na, aside, ito naman, kung sa reward yun, ito naman, ginagawa niya isang task para ma-avoid niya yung kahihiyan. For example, nag-aaral siya kasi ayaw niyang mapahiya. Diba? Ganun yung example ng introjective regulation. While sa external motivation, we also have identified regulation. Ito naman yung autonomous na good thing na good external motivation siya. Kasi, ginagawa mo siya, same sila ni integrity regulation din. Para silang autonomous motivation. Ginagawa mo siya kasi align niya sa values mo and align siya dun sa identity mo bilang ikaw. And ito yung last naman, yung motivation. Ito na yung kapag mataas ang control motivation mo. Mostly, ang worst cases is yung nag-end up sa motivation or wala nang hindi na enough yung motivation mo or kulang na to continue what you do or kulang para gawin mo yung isang bagay. Parang sobrang ayaw mo na pang gawin kasi parang wala na sa'yo nagpo-push forward para gawin yun. Kasi wala ka nang gana para gawin yung isang bagay. Okay, so moving forward, ito na yun. We have the basic psychological needs. According sa theory nito, dapat daw ay mapunan or masatisfy yung tatlong needs na to. Una is yung need to so, need for autonomy. So, yun na yung na-mention natin. Itong self-determination theory, more on nakaling talaga siya sa autonomy or yung sa kalayaan natin pumili ng gusto or yung naka-align mismo sa kung anong gusto natin. So, sa psychological needs, ito yung one. Dapat daw na may kalayaan yung isang tao. And this need is really critical, especially sa attitude and feeling ng isang individual, especially in terms of work. Kailangan masatisfy ito. While for the need for the competence naman, kailangan ma-feel ng isang employee na capable siya gawin yung isang bagay. Nararamdaman niya na may impact siya or magaling siya at makakapag-contribute siya sa isang organization. While kapag si relatedness naman, syempre kapag, ito yung sinasabi doon na, kapag wala yung wala to, medyo mas mahirap para sa isang individual na mag-perform better din. Kasi kahit meron yung iba, kung wala namang relatedness or yung feeling na kabilang sila doon sa kabilang or belong sila doon sa isang organization, parang wala ring say yung ginagawa nila. Kung wala naman din or hindi naman nila mag-feel belong sila doon sa isang group. So, ayun, kailangan nila ma-feel na yung acceptance, yung feel na value sila at parang naalagaan sila mismo para mag-perform better. So, sa other theories, this is also similar to enough or the affiliation. And, ano ba? Okay, so sa need autonomy is paano natin makakatulong yun sa mga management style kapag binigyan hinayaan ng mga management, ng mga manager na or supervisor na bigyan ng choices, i-involve yung ibang employee dun sa mismong usapan o magkaroon ng encouragement to have initiatives. While for the competence naman, ayun, if may dapat strategic kasi din yung way natin with this kasi syempre minsan we also have individual differences na nakaka-affect dito. Yan. Constructive feedback dapat or criticism, offer opportunities as well as develop and develop a goal and make sure that attainable sila para mas lalo ma-motivate yung mga employee natin. All for the relatedness naman yun dapat yung teamwork, collaboration, supported and respectful environment yung need ng isang employee para ma-meet yung psychological need na ito. Moving forward, we have here we have the first sub-theory, which is the cognitive evaluation theory. So, atong, atong theory na to is parang siya, counterintuitive. Minsan, ina-explain nito is about sa rewards. Minsan, hindi lahat ng rewards ay good thing kasi minsan nakakabawas mismo siya ng intrinsic motivation ng isang tao. Kapag nagiging controlling na or parang ginagawa na lang ng isang individual for the sake of rewards. So, dapat kailangan din maging strategic yung mga company about applying or giving bonuses and rewards. Sasabi na nila, yung intrinsic motivation kasi, it contributes with the quality. So, kapag mataas yung intrinsic motivation ng isang tao, mas maganda yung quality ng work na naibibigay nila. But, yung incentives kasi, it's good thing, pero dapat alam kung paano i-apply yun and applicable siya dun sa mga tao. Kasi, yes, the good thing of it is na kapag bibigyan ng incentive, mas namamotivate din sila. Pero still, dapat nami-maintain pa rin yung, or nasa-satisfy pa din, andun pa din yung, namimit pa din yung psychological needs na kailangan ng isang employee. Kasi, for example, per quota, per product, gano'n, may bonus or may sila, allotted na reward. If gano'n, mag-base lang sa reward, gagawin lang ng isang employee yun dahil for the sake of the rewards. Kahit hindi na maganda yung quality ng work, di ba? So, kaya kailangan maging strategic din yung mga company in applying and giving rewards. Well, ito namang self-concordance theory, in essence lang, in a nutshell, yung self-concordance theory, dapat is yung values mo and okay. Wait. Balikan natin yung sa cognitive evaluation theory. To give an example para dito, para ma-visualize yung idea. For example, ikaw dati nag-volunteer ka gumawa ng something. For example, sa farm. May help ka doon nang walang nang walang sahod or anything na rewards. Tapos, at the same time, nabigyan ka ng offer with the same work. Pero, nafe-feel mo na hindi na siya fulfilling. Kasi parang ginagawa mo na lang siya because of the rewards. Unlike before na ginagawa mo siya dahil gusto mo siya, hindi dahil sa reward. So, ayun. Dito naman na yung sa self-concordance theory. Ito yung sa self-concordance theory kasi, ayun, sa self-concordance theory, focus siya parang sa yung sinasabi na find a career na something that you like or you are compassionate about para gawin yung isang bagay. So, kailangan, individual difference is still one of the major factors na makaka-apekto sa atin. Hindi lang nag-base sa motivation or dun sa mismong external factors. But also, dapat, yung values mo and yung mga principles mo in life is align mismo din dun sa values na ng company or ng kung saan ka nagtatrabaho. Kasi, ayun, kapag pinaka-align sa'yo, mas madaling gawin yung isang bagay. Tapos, mas mataas yung job satisfaction. And, yun, mas kasi yung, better organizational fit. Ibig sabihin, align yung skills, yung values mo with doon sa company. Kapag align yung skills and yung values mo, mas madaling gawin yung isang bagay or mas magpa-perform better ka sa task na ginagawa mo. Okay. So, ayun, sa management style tayo. So, ayun, kung compare lang natin siya dito sa autonomy. Pag autonomy supported yung management style, no? Ayun nga, yun na-mention naman natin yung iba. For example, nabibigay ka ng rational or ina-explain mo better yung mga tasks na pinapagawa mo sa employee mo, mas okay yun. Tapos, inayaan mo silang mag-initiate, ayun, ma-encourage, ina-encourage mo, in-acknowledge mo yung mga ginagawa nila. Mag-i-improve yun ay masasatisfy nun yung mga psychological needs na kailangan to perform better. Kapag, yun nga, compare natin sa controlling manager, kapag more on pressure, demands, tapos nagre-rely lang sa rewards, mas bababa yung autonomous motivation ng isang tao. It only means na kapag hindi na-satisfy yung mga psychological needs natin or ng isang tao, nagde-decrease yun, or pag frustrated dun sa psychological needs, nagde-decrease yung motivation to do something para i-continue gawin yung ginagawa nila. While kapag na-satisfy yung 3 psychological needs, ayun, mag-increase yung motivation ng isang tao or isang individual, isang employee. Ayun, so, yung limitation lang ng study nito is it only focuses on says on correlational, yung how psychological needs and other motivation affects, or how psychological needs affects the motivation of an individual. Naglilin lang sa correlational but not causational rather. Kasi, like you said, meron din individual difference na nakaka-apekto dun sa performance mismo ng isang individual. And hindi siya sakop ng mismong theory kasi yun nga na nakapokus tayo sa correlational. So, to wrap it up, yung sa self-determination theory is not all about rewards but also meeting the psychological needs that we have para to perform better. Kailangan ma-nurture yun. Yung tatlo, yung autonomy, yung competence, and yung relatedness. And hindi ibig sabihin ng extrinsic motivation is good things na lahat yon or good effect agad yon. Minsan kasi yung mga ganun, katulad ng sa rewards, yun sa type ng motivation na meron tayo, yun sa interjected regulation and external regulation, galing yan sa mga external factors yun outside. But it doesn't mean na nakaka-motivate yan. Yung iba can be controlled motivation. And kapag sumobra yon, ang motivation na yon, mas hindi na-perform better yung isang individual. So, kapag unmotivated tayo, hindi lang natin tatanungin kung ano pa yung pwede natin gawin para ituloy yon. Ask natin yung tatlong basic psychological needs na kailangan na met para malaman natin yung true answer. So, that's all for this second.
So, we will now move forward to our next theory that I'll be reporting, which is the social cognitive theory, and it is also known as a social learning theory by Albert Bandura. So this theory is very important in industrial organizational psychology because it helps us to understand how employees learn, adapt, and change their behavior in the workplace. Let's start.
So, ano nga ba ang definition nitong theory na to? So, originally, this theory is called social learning theory by Bandura. So, ito yung ideya na natututo tayo sa pamamagitan ng pagmamasid o pagmamasid, observation, at paggaya sa ibang tao. But eventually, na-realize ni Bandura na may thinking process din na involved dito. So, kaya ito binago at tinatawag na natin ngayong social cognitive theory. So, this explains how people learn by observing others and not just by direct experience. So, ibig sabihin, natututo tayo hindi lang dahil may reward o punishment, kundi dahil pinapanood natin na ginagawa ng ibang tao at ginagaya natin ito kasi nakikita nating effective or maganda yung kanalabasan ng action na yon. So, it also highlights the role of thinking, beliefs, and environment and shaping our actions. So, for example, kapag may bagong employee sa isang company na nanonood kung paano mag-handle ng customer yung senior staff or tenured agent, natututo siya through observation. And kahit hindi siya direktang tinuturuan, just by observing, nalalaman niya kung paano gawin yung trabaho ng maayos. So, that's the definition of social cognitive theory.
Tatalakayin naman natin ngayon yung mga key concepts ng social learning or social cognitive theory. So, Bandura's most famous idea is the observational learning or learning by watching. Sabi niya may 4 na steps kung paano tayo natututo sa panonood. First step is, or first process will be the attention. So, kailangan nakafocus tayo sa model natin. So, example, watching how a team leader gives a good presentation. And then, next will be retention. So, kailangan maalala natin yung ginawa ng model na pinapanood natin. And next will be reproduction. So, itatry na natin gawin yung nakita natin. And then, fourth will be the motivation. So, may reason na tayo para gayahin. Like, merong reward or success. So, ito yung base ng mga on-the-job training at mentorship programs kung saan employees are learning through observation and imitation.
So, the another key concept and this theory is what we call reciprocal determinism. So, the central concept of social cognitive theory, and it states that behavior is influenced by and also influences both personal factors and environment. So, for example, kung may positive work environment, mas nagiging motivated ang mga employees na mag-perform sila ng mas maayos, which then makes the environment even better. So, sino nga ba naman ang gustong magtrabaho sa isang company na ang environment ay puro toxic and as well as hindi nagkakaayos sa isang organization, di ba? So, magkakaroon lang ng stress sa trabaho at baka mas lalong hindi maging maayos yung performance ng isang employee. So, ganito ka-importante yung reciprocal determinism. Another one is what we called self-efficacy. So, this refers to belief that in one's ability to succeed in specific situations. So, sabi ni Bandura, kapag we believe na, kapag naniniwala kang kaya mo, mas mataas ang chance na maging matagumpay ka, sumakses ka. Ganon. So, yung 4 sources nito is mastery experience, success builds confidence, vicarious experience as seeing others succeed. Third will be verbal persuasion, encouragement. And fourth is physiological state, our mood and stress level. So, for example, kung nakikita ng employee na kaya ng coworker niya mag-handle ng customer ng kalmado, maayos, may isip niya na, kaya ko rin yun. In return, gagawin niya yun ng mas maayos at baka nga mas mahigitan niya pa yung coworker niya. So, ayun ang ibig sabihin ng self-efficacy. So, ayun nga, believing in your ability that you can succeed. And it's also important in employee motivation, leadership training, and performance improvement. So, for our next key concept is what we called outcome expectation. So, this one is belief natin sa mangyayari kapag ginawa natin ng isang bagay or isang action. Kung iniisip natin na may positive result, mas gagawin natin yung behavior. So, kung alam mo naman na negative yung result ng action na to or behavior na to, gagawin mo pa ba? Ang example na to is if employees believe that they'll get a bonus for meeting targets, they'll work harder to meet their targets. So, mas gagalingan nila yung trabaho nila, yung effort nila, mas magpupush pa sila to meet their quotas or targets para sa bonus. Syempre, di ba? Sino ba yung ayaw ng bonus? Kasi, syempre, madadagdagan yung sasahurin mo. So, this is also applied in reward systems and performance incentives in organization. Next is self-regulation. This is our ability to control our own behavior, to observe, evaluate, and adjust our actions to reach our goals. So, in other words, it's how we manage ourselves to stay productive and consistent to our work. So, for example, if you notice that you are not able to finish your task on time, magre-reflect ka kung bakit kaya hindi ko na ito natapos ng on time. Tapos, next time, mag-a-adjust ka na para mas matapos mo to ng mas maayos. So, there are three steps of self-regulation according to Albert Bandura, and these are self-observation, self-judgment, self-reaction. For self-observation, ito yung kung saan monitor mo yung sarili mong behavior. You pay attention to what you're doing, your habits, your effort, your progress. And then you became aware of how your behavior affects your goals. Next is self-judgment. Ito yung part kung saan gina-judge mo or in-evaluate mo yung sarili mo kung okay lang ba o hindi ang performance mo sa mga certain works, standards, or goals na ginagawa mo. So, you compare your behavior to your personal goals or company standards. It's about assessing to know if you met expectations or if there's something that you need to improve. So, example na to is pagkatapos mo mag-observe, na-realize mo na hindi mo naabot yung daily quota. So, i-evaluate mo yung sarili mo kung saan ka nagkamali o saan pa yung pwede mong improve. Next naman, this happens during performance appraisal or employee self-evaluation forms. So, comparing actual performance of the employee versus the goals. Lastly is what we call self-reaction. Ito naman yung step kung saan nagre-respond ka sa resulta ng self-judgment mo. So, if satisfied ka sa ginawa mo, you reward yourself. Like, you're feeling proud or magbe-break ka muna. And if not satisfied naman, i-correct mo yung action mo and you'll do your best or you'll work harder next time. So, this process builds motivation, accountability, and growth mindset and is essential for goal setting and employee development. So, before tayo mag-move forward sa ating last key concept, isingit ko lang yung famous experiment ni Albert Bandura. So, to prove his theory, Bandura conducted the Bobo doll experiment. So, I know that we are familiar of this experiment wherein children watched adults act aggressively toward a doll and then later they imitated that behavior. So it showed that people learn through observation even without direct reward or punishment, because as we all know, children tend to remember or imitate what they see easily. So in organizations, this shows why leaders' behavior strongly influences how employees act. If a manager is calm and respectful, then in return, the team tends to act the same. So yeah, let's move forward now to our last key concept, which is what we called modeling types. So in this modeling types, there are three types of models identified by Bandura. First is the live model, a real person like a trainer. Next is verbal model, so someone giving instructions. And lastly, the symbolic model, models from media, videos, or even online training. In IO psychology, we use all three in employee training programs, especially electronic learning and role-playing simulations. So, I've experienced this before nung nag-work ako sa isang BPO company. So, merong live model which is the TLs or the tenured agents, which guides the new employees through the process of the work. So, pinapakita kung paano talaga i-execute yung trabaho, kung paano sila mag-call. So, parang nagsa-side to side sila. So, andito yung tenured and andito yung agent. Pinapakinggan niya kung paano mag-call yung tenured agent. So, through this, mas nakikita or natututunan ng bagong empleyado kung paano magtrabaho ng tama. Kasi nga nakikita niya na ganun yung ginagawa ng tenured na agent nila. Next is the someone giving instructions for the verbal model. So, naranasan ko rin to. So, habang nasa front ako ng computer, so may nagbibigay sa akin ng instruction kung paano ko gagawin. So, pumapasok na rin dito yung role-playing kasi nandun ka na talaga sa mismong production kung paano gagawin yung trabaho. Next is the symbolic model. So, models from media, videos. Super helpful nito kasi through this, nagsisend sila ng mga videos ng actual customer and then agent, kung paano sinasagot yung mga questions, kung paano ina-execute yung trabaho, kung paano yung tamang process. So, these are the key concepts of the social cognitive theory.
So, saan nga ba natin na-apply ang theory na to sa workplace? So, marami tayong pwedeng i-apply sa gamit ang theory na to at ito yung employee training through modeling. So, learning by modeling mentors. Next is leadership development. So, manager act as behavioral models. Next will be motivation and performance management. So, it builds self-efficacy and positive expectations. Next will be behavior reinforcement, and lastly will be organizational learning that promotes learning and adaptation. So that concludes our lesson or this part's theory, which is the social cognitive theory by Albert Bandura, and I hope you learned something. Thank you for watching and listening to this theory.
Ayun. So ngayon naman pumunta naman tayo sa Theory X and Theory Y ni Douglas MacGregor. According kay MacGregor, bawat manager daw may sariling pananaw tungkol sa nature ng employee nila. Yung pananaw na yon, whether positive or negative, nakaka-apekto sa kung paano nila pinamumunuhan ang team. He divided this assumption into two main theories. Yung Theory X, may negative view siya sa mga workers, and yung Theory Y naman, siya naman yung may positive view sa mga workers. Yung main goal ni MacGregor ay magkaroon ng reflection yung mga manager kung paano ba like for example, paano ba akong nag-iisip tungkol sa mga tao ko? Or do I trust them? Or do I control them too much? Yun yung sabi niya. So, let's start with Theory X na. Under this theory, manager believe that most people don't like to work daw, or kaya tamad, ganyan. Tamad sila by nature, or only work lang. And then, manager with this mindset daw, iniisip nila yung employee nila need ng supervise, kailangan i-control, or kaya kailangan i-threaten para lang gumawa sila, ganyan. He also believe na yung employee nila yung employee nila mas gusto na directive or ayaw ng mga responsibilities, ganun, or nag-work lang sila because of money or kaya job security. Ayun. Kunyari, example niyan is may boss na laging nakabantay, madalas magpa-report or kaya madalas magbantay kung sino ang late. Ayun, yun yung Theory X manager daw. Leadership approach ng Theory X, authoritarian or controlling na. Para sa mga manager ng Theory X or parang tingin nila tamad ka yung mga employee, kailangan din nila magkaroon ng rules, discipline, tsaka supervision. Meron din silang decision na ginagawa para lang sumunod yung employee, or kaya kailangan ng little room para sa creativity or feedback ng mga employees para lang maboost yung confident nila, ganyan, na mag-work. may advantage and disadvantage yung Theory X. Ang advantage niya is may clear structure and defined rules siya. May work for repetitive, routine, and safety critical tasks. And then, ang disadvantage naman niya, low yung employee morale. And then, stiffness, creativity, and motivation ng employee. And then, high turnover or kaya nabuburn out yung mga employee. Ganyan. Next is, proceed naman sa Theory Y, which show the positive side naman daw ng mga manager sa kanilang employee. Here naman, naniniwala yung manager na yung mga employee niya talagang ini-enjoy yung pag-work. Feel niya motivated daw yung mga employee niya, tsaka well-value, ganyan. Tapos, employee as seen as responsible, creative, tsaka capable sa self-direction. Alam niyo yung parang hindi na kailangan ng masyadong tinitignan, ganyan. Kasi alam na ng mga employee nila kung ano yung gagawin, ganyan. And they also they want to contribute then and take responsibilities sa mga ginagawa nila or kapag nabibigyan sila ng chance, ganyan. For Theory Y manager, yung motivation comes for internal satisfaction daw. Kanyari, yung growth, recognition, tsaka fulfillment ng employee. And ang example nito is, kunwari, sa isang creative company, yung employees daw ay binibigyan ng freedom to decide kung ano yung gusto nilang gawin sa work or paano nila gagawin yung work nila, ganun. And the manager just support them. Ayun yung mga ginagawa. Ayun yung example. Siyempre, meron din siyang leadership approach. Ang leadership approach na is participative and empowering. And then, manager act as a coaches and facilitators, not directors. Dictators. Hindi sila yung katulad ng Theory X na masyadong control, ganyan. And then, ini-encourage din nila na magkaroon ng collaborative or open communication para ma-motivate yung employees. And then, ini-involve din nila yung employee sa decision making and tsaka sa goal settings. Siyempre, meron din yung advantage and disadvantage. Ang advantage ng Theory Y ay nagbibuild siya ng trust, motivation, and creativity sa mga employees. And then, nagli-live din siya ng higher productivity at saka job satisfaction. Ang disadvantage naman niya is, siyempre, some employees may use freedom. And then, mahirapan ma-monitor or ma-measure yung result ng mga employees kasi nga siyempre may freedom sila, hindi sila masyadong hindi sila masyadong kinokontrol, hindi katulad sa Theory X. Yun. When to use each theory daw? Sabi ni McGregor na hindi dapat i-apply ang parehong theory sa lahat ng sitwasyon. Kunyari, Theory X work best for routine or repetitive tasks or kaya sa mga new tsaka unexperienced employee tsaka sa mga work environment na need ng strict rules, while naman daw sa Theory X mas better siyang ginagamit for creative or innovation based work or kaya sa mga employee na skilled and motivated. Tapos sa mga company na collaborative culture. Kasi kapag ganito daw, mas naa-adapt ng mga team kung ano yung mga kailangan nila. Pag pinag-combine naman natin yung theory X tsaka theory Y, in modern organization naman, leadership often combine both theories, no? Para for example, a manager might start with theory X, rules for new employee siya. Then magsiship siya sa theory Y once na nakita niya yung trust tsaka skill na na-develop sa employee. Kasi kailangan nating mabalance yung kailangan natin ng balance to help maintain yung discipline while promoting na yung motivation and creativity ng isang employee sa isang company. For example, parang teacher na strict siya sa simulang semester, then later on, magigive na siya ng freedom sa mga estudyante niya kapag naging responsible na sila. So, ayun po Theory X and Theory Y ni MacGregor. Yun lamang po.
So, the next topic na we have here is it's about, it's very crucial, especially sa workplace, kasi it's about the fairness. So, let's talk about the organizational justice. Ang sabi po dito, organizational justice is an employee's perception of fairness in the workplace regarding the decisions made, the methods used to make them, and the interpersonal treatment received from the organization and its management. So, in other words po, yung organizational justice po is about the perception or feeling po ng isang employee tungkol po doon sa fairness ng decisions, ng mga procedures, or ng overall treatment which is natatanggap po nila within the company. So, ayun po, from the word feels, it's about how the employees feel kung ang mga rules at outcomes ba ay patas po or hindi. It's answered the questions why we need it. Bakit? Since yung organizational justice po is hindi lang po siya maganda, it's also build trust and commitment, kasi kung fair po yung procedures at treatment, mataas po yung tiwala po ng mga employees sa management and they become more committed. Also, it also boosts motivation, kasi pag alam po ano ang efforts mo ay fair na nare-recognize, mas naganado ka po magtrabaho. Also, it reduces negative behavior, kasi kung fair po yung workplace, mas mababa po yung incidents ng pagnanakaw, mga awol, or yung mga pagre-resign po ng mga empleyado. Kasi po, pag meron pong nakitang injustice yung employees, meron po silang tendency na bumawi or mag-retaliate. They will reduce their effort, tapos they will lose the faith in the company, or worse, it will result into conflict, toxic work environment po, dahil sa resentment po na yun. So ayun, before we talk about the three components of organizational justice, pag-usapan po muna natin yung equity theory, which is developed by J. Stacy Adams in 1960s. It's a motivational theory that proposes employees are driven by a need for fairness in the workplace. So, yung equity theory po is, since equity, pagkakapantay-pantay, so this concept po is nagpapaliwanag po na kung bakit yung feeling ng fairness po ay mas mahalaga pa kaysa dun sa actual amount po ng sweldo mo. Since yung equity theory is nagsasabing ang motivation at satisfaction ng isang employee po ay nakabase sa kung paano napiperceive ang fairness ng kanyang natatanggap relate to others, which are relative to others. Then, hindi lang po siya tungkol sa sarili mo, it's also about social comparison. Yung feel na kinukompare mo po yung sarili mo sa iba. Sa madaling salita po, the question is, patas ba ang ratio po ng aking effort, ng yung effort at rewards kumpara sa iba? since meron po siyang formula, output self over input self versus output referent over input referent. Yun po yung formula for equity theory. Ito po yung outcome to input ratio ng ating referent po. The first po is the input. Ito po yung mga contributions na binibigay mo sa trabaho. Hindi lang po siya about time and effort, kundi pati na rin po sa mga skills, experience mo, even your educations and loyalty at commitment po. So yung inputs po is yung dapat mong nararamdaman mong dahilan is kung bakit ka dapat mabigyan ng reward. Kaya dito papasok yung output. Sa outputs naman po, ito po yung mga natatanggap mo. Tulad na lang po ng mga we have the tangible and intangible rewards, diba? For tangible, dito po yung sweldo, benefits mo, tapos yung job security mo. Then for intangible naman, yung mga recognition, yung status, or yung promotions mo. Then the last one is yung the referent, yung pinagkukumparahan mo. It's either internal or external. Pag internal po, pag internal, parang co-employee mo, tapos kinukompare mo yung sarili mo since pares naman po kayo ng trabaho. Then pag external po, like meron kang friend na same ng work sa'yo pero different po ng company. Yun po yun. Pwede mong ikumpara po yung sarili mo. So yung referent po is, so yun, sa pagpili po ng referent is very crucial also because it sets the standards of what is fair. So yung pagkumpara sa ratio ay nagdudulot ng tatlong posibleng emotional states. Meron pong equity. Kung equal po yung dalawang ratio, like for example, your pay is fair because your efforts and experiences match your colleagues and their pay matches theirs. Nakakaramdam po ng satisfactions at motivated kang i-maintain ang current level ng effort mo. Equity, ito po yung balance po yung results ng formula. Then meron naman po tayong negative inequity, yung under-rewarded. Kung yung mas mataas po, kung mas mababa po yung referent, ito po yung feeling na I'm working harder but they're getting more, parang ganyan. Tapos dito po pumapasok yung frustration mo, yung anger mo. So pwede po siyang magbawas po ng effort, magdemand ng raise, or simply umalis po ng trabaho. Then meron pong positive inequity or yung over-rewarded, which if maganda siya pakinggan, pero pwede po siyang magdulot ng tension or guilt sa sarili mo, which is theoretically lang po. So para ibalik po yung balance, yung employee is mag-i-increase po siya ng effort or they will work harder po. So ang gawin lang po is be transparent po about the why. Bilang isang naging leader, kailangan po natin i-explain ng malinaw yung paanong desisyon ang company sa outputs. Kung may mataas na sahod ng isang tao, dapat po alam po ng team na dahil ito sa mataas na experience. Ayun po, nakadepend po sa experience po ng isang tao, kaya mas mataas po yung sahod niya. Hindi lang po siya dahil sa malakas ka. Ganun. Tapos kailangan din pong i-manage po ng company ang expectation ng employee sa kung sino ang dapat nilang ikumpara. So in the end po, equity theory is a sense of fairness. Ang pinakamakapangyarihang tool or pinakamakapangyarihang fuel po para sa motivation po ng isang tao. So, ito po yung unang components ng organizational justice, which is the distributive. It is a dimension of organizational justice that refers to an individual's perceived fairness of the outcomes or results they receive from an organization. So, yung distributive justice po, ito po yung isang aspeto po ng organizational justice na directly nakaka-affect sa ating satisfaction, career path. Basically po, ang tanong lang po dito is, patas ba ang resulta na natanggap ko? So, tumutukoy po siya sa perceived fairness po ng isang employee sa kung paano ina-allocate ng kumpanya ang mga resources, rewards, at maging ang burdens. Hindi po siya tungkol sa proseso. Tungkol po siya sa outcomes. So, yung mga outcomes po na ito is meron pong financial rewards like sweldo, bonuses, commissions, at benefits. So, for promotions, the job titles at job security. So, if hindi mo po feel na sapat po yung na re-receive mo, pwede pong maka-result siya sa distributive injustice. So, bakit po ba nagmamatter po yung distributive justice? It's the ito po yung parang driver po ng motivations at loyalty ng isang employee. Kung meron pong kawalan po nito, pwede pong makapag-result in low motivations. Kung pag na-feel po ng isang employee po na hindi patas ang ratio niya, natural nilang reaction ay magbawas po ng inputs, diba? Less effort, late work, and absent. There are also dissatisfaction, the results to conflict. So, all in all, yung fair outcomes lead to motivated employees. Yun lang naman po yun. That fair outcomes lead to motivated employees. Para ensure po yung distributive justice, kailangan po ng mga managers na magkaroon po ng malinaw, justifiable at consistent na criteria sa lahat ng desisyon tungkol po sa pay, sa promotions at sa workloads. Dapat alam din po ng bawat empleyado na ang kanilang effort ay magkakaroon ng katumbas po na reward. Then, the next concept po will be presented by Ms. Cabato.
Hello, ngayon naman pag-usapan natin yung procedural justice na isa rin sa mga components or kasama din sa organizational justice. First, yung procedural justice, ito kasi yung by the word itself na procedural, it's all about how employees see the fairness sa mga proseso and policies sa management or kung paano sila nagde-decide or gumagawa ng decision. And according nga kay Kulkit noong 2001, ang procedural justice daw ay tumutukoy sa perception ng mga empleyado kung patas ba yung way nila, yung paraan nila ng pagmamanage sa paggawa ng mga decision. Tapos it's not just about the outcomes. Kasama din dito yung procedure nga dun sa pagdidesisyon na nakaka-affect of course sa outcomes. So hindi lang dapat siya hindi lang dapat patas yung result, kundi pati yung steps or yung proseso papunta doon patas din. Kasi for example, imagine sa isang company, halos lahat naman po sa mga company may mga promotion. Kahit hindi ikaw yung na-promote or personal, hindi ikaw yung pre-nomote, kung alam mo na dumaan siya sa tamang process, sa tamang proseso ng pagpo-promote dun sa mga employee, or transparent yung paggawa nila or yung decision nila ng management dun sa sa pagpo-promote ng isang tao, okay lang sa'yo kasi kasi alam mo nga na fair, nakikita mo yung fairness doon sa mga decision nila and doon mismo pa lang sa procedures and steps nila. Tapos kung naman, kung may halong favoritism naman or parang hindi pantay yung chances sa lahat, doon nagsisimula yung feeling of unfairness ng mga empleyado. Syempre kapag hindi ka na parang hindi mo na nafe-feel yung fairness dun sa work or sa company, sa management, parang nakakabawas din siya ng motivation sa pagpasok since wala ngang fairness or wala ngang justice dun sa work na yon, sa environment nyo. Or in short, kapag procedural justice siya, nakafocus siya more on sa decision, kung paano ginagawa yung decision, at saka hindi lang siya naka-base sa outcomes. Yung mga empleyado kasi, mas nagiging motivated nga sila, kagaya ng sabi ko, kapag nakikita nila na may fair process sa workplace nila. Next naman po, yung interactional justice. By the word interaction, yung interactional justice naman po, yung tungkol sa paano nakikitungo yung management o yung mga management sa mga empleyado habang gumagawa sila ng mga decision. It's about the decision po ulit. It's decision making naman pa rin po siya. Pero ito, may interaction ng mga management or ng mga nasa itaas kung paano sila nakikitungo sa mga empleyado nila while making a decision. Ayun po. Tapos, ayon pa rin kay Colkit nung 2001 ulit, tumutukoy po siya sa fairness at quality ng interpersonal treatment na nararanasan ng mga empleyado. So, kung iisipin natin, kahit minsan hindi pa favor sa'yo yung decision, kapag maayos kang tinrato or ipinaliwanag sa'yo ng maayos ng management yung decision nila na yon, mas madali mo tong matatanggap kasi may maayos na explanation. Tapos sabi rin ni Cropanzono at nung mga kasama niya noong 2007, kasama dito yung mga pag-respect ng management, yung maayos na communication, saka malinaw nga na pagpapaliwanag ng decision nila. Kumbaga, it's not just only about what the decisions are made, but how those decisions are communicated and delivered. Kapag magalang yung or tapat yung mga nakikitungo ng kapag kasi maayos, may respect yung pakikitungo ng mga leaders, nagkakaroon tayo ng trust sa kanila, nagkakaroon din tayo ng respeto, saka mas maganda yung relationship sa workplace. Ayun po. Let's talk about naman po yung dalawang elements of justice nitong interactional justice. Si interactional justice po, meron po siyang dalawang elements of justice. First po, yung interpersonal justice, and second, yung informational justice. First, mag-focus po muna tayo sa interpersonal justice. Si interpersonal justice naman po, ito yung tumutukoy sa kung paano tinatrato yung mga empleyado, kung dapat ba may respect, may courtesy, ganyan, may paggalang. Tapos, kasi kahit gaano po kaganda yung policy ng mga company, kung bastos yung or rude yung pakikitungo ng mga leaders or ng mga nasa taas na position, nawawala pa rin po yung sense of fairness para sa mga mababang empleyado. Next naman for informational justice, ito naman po yung tungkol sa pagbibigay ng malinaw, ng clear po na paliwanag dun sa decision. Halimbawa, ibig sabihin po nito, dapat alam ng mga empleyado kung bakit ganun yung naging decision nila. Tas hindi yung bigla na lang pong nagbabago na bigla na lang may pagbabago dun sa company na wala na lang biglang paliwanag. Yung gulat na lang yung mga empleyado kasi wala man lang pasabi na may mga changes pala. Kaya po siya interactional kasi may interaction po talaga with the management saka sa mga employee. Tapos ano din po siya, kaya po mahalaga yung dalawa na to, itong si interpersonal justice saka si informational justice. Kasi kapag may respect saka malinaw yung communication sa sa company, sa workplace, mas nararamdaman ng tao na patas yung sistema nila. Yung mismong nandoon sa company po. And for naman po, importance naman nitong organizational justice, first for economic consideration po. For economic consideration po, kung patas yung sistema at maayos po yung trato, nagiging mas productive yung mga empleyado. Important po siya for that, and mas mamomotivate silang magtrabaho, bumababa po yung mga turnover rate, saka mas nagiging successful yung company in the long run. Yung pangalawa naman, for social consideration, kapag may mga fairness sa work or sa mga workplace, nagkakaroon po ng trust at teamwork sa mga empleyado, nagkakaroon ng nakakapag-socialize sila ng maayos since nakikita nga po nila yung fairness sa itaas pa lang. And mas nagiging healthy po yung working environment nila at mas madali rin nilang na-handle yung mga conflict since mas positive yung minds nila. And yung lastly naman po, for ethical consideration, ito naman po yung tungkol sa paggawa ng tama. Hindi lang dahil kailangan, kundi dahil may mga moral and just thing to do. And kung may fairness and integrity po sa bawat process, kagaya po ng sa procedural process, kapag alam nila po yung mga process, alam nila na may fairness doon, mas nagiging credible po sa respected yung organization. And overall po sa organizational justice, mas important po siya kasi it promotes fairness, yung respect po, trust, saka yung cooperation po sa buong company or sa organization po. Mga things po na kailangan para maging productive, para maging successful or harmonious po yung isang workplace. Ayun po, that's all po for our organizational justice. Thank you po.
Thank you for listening, and that's the end of our discussion.